Today, our special guest is Grace Brockway. She is a 20-year-old student at the University of North Georgia in Gainesville. She is studying elementary and special education. She currently works as an art teacher at Collins Hill Christian School, and she teaches children from kindergarten to third grade. So she's already a teacher and going to school at the same time. It's so cool. She's a longtime member of Victory Church in Hamilton Mill, and she serves on their guest experience team and in their student ministry. She's a very busy young lady. She's a committed follower of Christ, and she shares his love with all that she encounters. Grace, so nice to have you.
Nice to be here.
Your parents have done a phenomenal job raising you and your sister Hope. You both have become responsible and yet fun-loving young women, and we are so excited to have you here. What were some of the things that you did, or your parents did, that aided you and your sister in being self-driven and accountable for your academic success?
So all throughout our school years, we went to a little private school, the one that I teach at. They were really involved in our school years. They were very aware of when we had tests and quizzes and projects. So they really tried to help us with that as much as they can. If we were struggling with a subject, they would always, try to go online and see if they could help us with math or science. And they really made sure that we knew that we needed to do our best, even if that wasn't an A+. So they always supported us and just made sure that we felt comfortable coming to them if we were getting bad grades or we needed help. So that, I think that really created an environment where we felt comfortable with them and we didn't have to overly stress about school, but still do our best.
Okay. I had a similar experience. My dad was in college when I was in high school, and he would help us with our math because he was doing math at the same time, and it was really it was really cool having your parent helping you when you needed help.
Mm-hmm.
Your little sister is currently in the 10th grade, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You also served as a leader to the 9th grade group in your church. What are some challenges that the girls are facing when going from 8th grade to high school?
So preparing for this, I talked to several of my students. I've been with them through 9th grade and into 10th grade. So I just was talking to them about what it was like. They said it was so scary going to a new school, not knowing who you're going to meet, who's going to be there, and how your teachers are going to be and everything. So they said to really focus on your relationship with God. While school is still important, it's good to have that strong foundation because that's something you can always lean and fall back on. They also mentioned that, the academics is different. You really have to be responsible. You need to study. You need to, do all of the work and be present in class. It's a lot different than middle school in that aspect. So they said it was so difficult to be, high school really is very different than middle school in that, if you get good grades in high school, you can get into the college of your choice. You really can't just mess around. It's not just fun and games anymore.
Okay. A lot of things are different now, but some things never change. Middle school is synonymous with peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I experienced it. I'm sure you did as well. I think everybody in middle school gets some kind of peer pressure. Would you say that changes in high school? Would you say that changes in high school? And then how does it evolve once you go to college? I mean, how is it in those two areas?
So I did feel a lot of peer pressure pretty much all through my life. I still feel it some now, but I've learned to not let other people's opinion of me affect how I act and and who I am. So that really, I think that stems from your relationship with God. You have to have a strong relationship with God and know who you are to Him before you can ever allow people to, try to define you and not let it affect you. So that's what I really learned, in my first and second years of high school is to know who that I am, so that when other people come and try to make me become who I'm not and try to make me do things that I don't want to do, especially, in the aspect of peer pressure, that I won't falter and I will stay true to my principles. So there is peer pressure in high school a lot, especially with drugs and with boys and with, all of these things that you shouldn't get into. And there is some in college as well, but going to a commuter college kind of helps because, you don't live there. There's not, you don't want to really hang around for parties on the weekend because everybody goes home on Friday nights. So that helps a little bit, but it is easy to fall into that. So it's very essential that you know who you are and what you stand for.
Okay, let me ask you a question. What would you say to a young lady that doesn't know Jesus about peer pressure?
I would say still know who you are, what you're comfortable doing, and stand firm to that. If you're not comfortable going over to a friend's house late at night, especially of somebody of the opposite gender, just say that. Say, hey, even blame it on your parents. Hey, my parents don't feel comfortable with me doing this, even if they would normally allow it. So that will help you, even if it's a fake excuse, just to be strong in that if you're not comfortable doing that. But yeah, just don't let other people try to define you, because if you wouldn't take advice from them, they should not be trying to tell you to do things. So just be careful who you surround yourself with, because those people are the people who are going to influence you, even if you don't realize it.
That is so true, and I think that goes across the board no matter how old you are.
Exactly.
So what is the best advice you would give your 13-year-old self?
I would say definitely be careful of who you hang around, because sometimes we have friends of convenience that are just, they may not be the best friends you've ever had, but they're just who's there. Don't let those people influence you. I definitely was doing that when I was 13. I was so obsessed with the people who were around me. I wanted to please them and be just like them. But I realize now that those weren't good role models. So to think of who I want to be in 5 years, who I want to be when I am going into college, and try to make that girl proud.
Okay. I think that's a great answer. Okay, teenage girls tend to pay a fair amount of attention to their appearance, and they naturally, and they want that desire, they have that desire to look their best. How can a mom have a conversation with her daughter about dressing appropriately in a way that honors and respects her body, but still encourages her daughter to look like a fun teenager and fit in? You do a great job with this. Can you give us some tips?
So it took me a long time. I used to be when I was in middle school, I was a very awkward dresser. It was not a good time. But as I got older, I realized, I do want to look nice, and that's perfectly fine. God doesn't look down on people who want to look nice. But He also says to not let your outward appearance define who you are. And that's something that's so big in this culture, is who people see is who you are, which is not true. So to just dress in a way that's comfortable to you, but also stay modest, It's so important, especially as a teenager. You always want to attract, a boy. You want to have a cute guy in high school like you. But you have to realize, the kind of people who are attracted simply by your outside are not the people that you want to be with long term. Those are not the kind of boys you want to marry. You want to marry a man. So to dress in a way that attracts the kind of person you would want to marry 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So, dress comfortable, that's my thing. If I'm not comfortable in an outfit, if, I wouldn't hang around my house in it, I don't really wear it. I like to be comfortable. So to just buy clothes, it doesn't have to be super expensive. Mm-hmm. So just buy clothes that you feel comfortable in, that look nice, even just jewelry can sometimes bling up an outfit, or even it could be casual and fancy at the same time. So, I try to look on Pinterest. I use Pinterest a lot, which, it's kind of funny. But to just look for outfit ideas and think, okay, well, I have a shirt that's similar to that in my closet. I could try to look like that. I could try different things. Just staying modern, staying hip with the times, things like that help a lot in making you feel like you fit in, but still are individually you.
Okay, great. What about transitioning from living at home and living on campus or in an apartment?
Mm-hmm. So I actually had to go and ask my sister and some friends because I still live at home. You know, I'm going to college. I work very close to home, and I go to college close to home. So I still live there. But my sister moved out 2 years ago. So I was talking to her last night. She had a difficult time trying to live with people who aren't your family. You've been with your family for 18 to 20 years by the time you move out. You know them, you know the way your household is run. So when you start living with somebody else, you have to adjust to all those little things. When do they take out the trash? Do they take showers in the morning or the night? How do they clean their room? So different things like that, you don't realize that they can get on your nerves. So you have to be very flexible. You have to be willing to go with the flow a little in that aspect. But still, if your roommates never do the dishes, you need to have a conversation about that. Different things like that. But I was talking to my sister, and she was saying there's freedoms that come from living on your own. You learn how you like to do things. She learned that she likes to eat dinner, 2 or 3 hours later than we do at home. She likes to, eat cereal at night, different things like that. She realized, I have to go and buy my own shampoo and soap. What scent do I want? Do I want to use sponges when I wash the dishes or just throw in the dishwasher, Different things like that. You learn about yourself, you learn about the people who are around you, you learn how to be flexible, like I was saying. So it is difficult in that aspect because it's a lot of change all at once, and you're going to a new school. So just, use your family to ground you, but try to, step out and be individual and learn more about yourself as an adult.
Okay. I feel like I missed a question, but what about conflict resolution between roommates or classmates, in high school and in college? Like, it's different in middle school because you're still kind of treated a little younger and all that, but when you get to high school, there's still conflict. There's conflict for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So what could you recommend for students, for girls that are, in high school and then going off to college?
So I think, like you're saying, you have conflict throughout your entire life, even with your family, but it's different, with people that aren't your family. So one thing that I do that I'm learning not to do is I wait until the last possible second where I'm so fed up with what the other person is doing that I'm just so frustrated and I just explode on them. So that's something that you should not do. If you notice something that gets on your nerves, bring it up to them. Say, hey, I don't really like that you just leave the bar of soap in the bathtub. Like, can you put it where it's supposed to go? Can you take out the trash when it's full instead of just leaving it and cramming it down in the can, Right. So talking to people, especially, roommates or even classmates or friends, just having conversations like, hey, this gets a little bit on my nerves. Do you mind, doing it in a different way? Or is there a reason that you do it that way? Because often, maybe it's the way that they grew up, the way that their parents do it. So sometimes asking them to help you understand why they do the things they do can kind of take the edge off of that conflict and make it a little more, oh, well, that's okay. That's a different way of living. That's a different way of doing things, and that's okay. But you still have to have difficult conversations throughout your entire life. So learning to do it earlier in your life can help you so much when you move out, or as you have those lifelong friends, or when you start having in-laws and cousins and people that you may not have met before. Just having that experience can help a lot. So just come humble, hey, I was just wondering, come kind. Don't come in an angry way like I sometimes do.
Yeah, I do not like conflict.
Me either.
And I have learned in my older years that you definitely need to speak up sooner than later. It's much better because you're more calm when you're not so filled with anger.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, it sounds like you had a great relationship with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
What did your mom do to create an environment to have an open conversation with you? Like, what would you recommend for moms, or a way to get their daughters to talk to them and to feel comfortable telling them what's bothering them or what's going on in their lives?
So I think daughters often have this image of their mom as either this, super messed up person that they could never relate to, or somebody who's too perfect. You're so much older than me, you don't understand what I'm going through. So I think it's crucial for daughters to hear those stories of their moms. Maybe they had peer pressure in high school when they were younger, and that can give your daughter a way to say, hey, I'm kind of feeling that right now. How did you get through that? Making sure that your daughter feels comfortable with you. So go on mom-daughter dates, do things together. Try to form a relationship so that when they're having an issue, they feel comfortable coming to you. That's something my mom did from the get-go. We would do things together. I love cooking, and so does my mom, so I'd always help her out in the kitchen or around the house. And so that created, this bond, this relationship, that when I did feel pressure in high school, or I had, situations I didn't know how to handle, that I was able to go to my mom and just say, hey, I'm not perfect, and I know you had issues too. Can you help me? How did you get through this? And even if she didn't know, she would often, try to ask somebody else or try to help me get those answers, so that even if she didn't know, which is, moms don't know everything, even if she didn't know, I still knew that I could come to her and get what I needed.
Okay, I had no daughters, and but I always told my children, or my two boys, that I said, no subject is off limits. You can you can ask me anything.
Yeah.
And I think I think just creating that open environment is good too. I mean, whether you have girls or boys, knowing that you are safe to talk to your parents, and even if it's a subject that that might upset them, but knowing that they're going to listen is huge. Tell me the difference between how to be successful with a high school teacher versus a college professor.
That's something I'm still learning. Because so when you get to college, a lot of people don't realize this, but you have a new professor every semester, unless if you choose to take them again. So it's very difficult in that aspect, because you have, most people take about 4 college classes every semester. So you have 4 different professors to learn how they grade papers, how they respond to questions in class. Do they want you to come and visit them in their office, or is that just not comfortable for them? So you really need to, read over your syllabus, learn how this professor teaches, learn the kind of tests they give. So sometimes that takes a few weeks, after the first test and the first few homework assignments, to really learn how the professors work. But they're people too, even if it's scary, and I'm not the best at coming up to professors and asking questions. I'd much rather send an email. But sometimes professors really like it if you try to come and speak to them in person. A lot of them have office hours, and I know it's different now because of, coronavirus and everything. But still trying to form a relationship with your professor and show them that you're willing to work and you're hungry to learn helps a lot in college. It is different in high school, in that in high school you're still a minor, you're still, you're living under your parents' roof and everything. So, a lot of times professors will be like, well, I'm going to talk to your parents if you don't do your homework. Like, they can't do that in college, You're an adult and you're responsible for tests and quizzes and homework. You're responsible to be in class. So that's kind of, you're, treated as an adult as soon as you get into college. And that's a little bit difficult at first. Especially, if you go to college straight out of high school. Just to be mindful that you have to be responsible. Your mom can't come and say, hey, you're giving my daughter too much homework. You have to stand up for yourself in that aspect. But it is, in high school, your professors, are willing to help you as much as possible. And in college as well. But you have to really dig deep and kind of get a relationship with them before you're usually able to realize, okay, they do want what's best for me. They're not just a crabby old professor.
Okay. What would you say is a good way to build self-confidence in an Instagram world or social media world?
Yeah, that's difficult. I was lucky to grow up before, I didn't get a phone until I was 16 when I started driving by myself. So that's very different from a lot of, girls who are in middle school and high school nowadays. They've had a phone since they were little. So that exposes them to that peer pressure, picture perfect world from a very young age. So it's important to have those conversations and just say, you see this girl's Instagram feed, those are the highlights. She may be super struggling at home. She may be, having a very difficult time and not be the girl who's in these photos at all. These could be, who knows, maybe she's a whiz with photo editing. She might not even look like this in the real world. Just because she had coffee 2 times this week with a friend doesn't mean that she does that every single week. So you have to realize that you can't compare your life to their life, because you know every struggle that you go through. You know the struggles of the people around you, but you don't know the struggle of this person deep down who you're just seeing their photos of, with little sunbursts, and they have the perfect makeup all the time, and the perfect body, and they always look so good. Like, that's, you don't see her on Friday night when she's struggling because she had a bad test grade that day. You don't see the behind the scenes. So just realizing that she's a person too. These people, even celebrities, they don't have a perfect life. They struggle with things just like you do. They may have different struggles, but it hits them just as hard as it hits you.
Well, Grace, you are just so wise for a 20-year-old. I'm so impressed. Just tell me this. For students preparing to go to college, what advice would you offer them on how to prepare before they go?
Talk to people. If you know people who are older than you, who have been to college before, talk to them. Ask them for advice. It's easy to just jump straight in, but go to your school's orientation. Go visit the campus, visit the dorms if you can, learn about your future roommates if you're living on campus. Try to become familiar with that environment. I dual enrolled, if you've ever heard of that. I was able to do college classes while I was still in high school. I did that my senior year, and that helped a lot financially and just me being comfortable with the college environment. Because I was in high school still being, me being a kid, and then I would go a few times a week and be an adult and be in college. So I think that helped me a lot with that transition. So just become familiar with campus. Studying is extremely important in college. Make your room, your office where you study and live, an environment where you're calm, where you feel comfortable, and that you can also separate school from just being having a break. That's very important for me. I have my desk in the corner, and that's where I study, and then my bed and the rest of my room is just very calm and fun, so that I can separate those two worlds, those two parts of myself. So just get as much advice as you can, study very hard, realize that sometimes you're gonna have to do homework on the weekends, and that's very difficult. Get a planner, get all your syllabuses from all your classes, and write down test dates, write down project dates, write down, maybe your mom's birthday you're gonna go out and do something fun. Make sure that you have one place where all of your stuff is written down to help you stay organized. That helps me, once it's written down on the calendar, I don't have to think about it anymore. I can look at it tomorrow. That helps me stay sane, stay organized. Organization is very important in college, just to stay on top of everything you have to do, and see, if you have time to join that club, if you have time to go out with your friends, and to also be comfortable saying no. Sometimes after a long day of work and school, I'm done. While it would be fun to go spend time with my friends, I need to realize that I need time by myself to be calm, to be, to spend time just being me for a little while without having to worry about, school, work, friends, how I'm supposed to look, how I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to act, and different things like that. So make sure that you're still staying you, but you have to stay on top of all the things that you have to do as well.
Okay, I think that's great advice. Well, thank you very much for being here today and answering our questions about transitioning from middle to high and high to college. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Did you enjoy that episode? Well, it's not over yet. We want to keep this discussion going. Hop over to the Cherished Daughters Revolution Facebook group and leave a comment now. If this content is engaging, helpful, and empowering, please subscribe and share with your friends. Let's be real, parenting teens can be hard, but you are who God chose to guide her to adulthood. Keep going, Mom. You have everything she needs. God's equipped you for this, and we're here to help supplement. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next episode.
Brilliant.